The moment a government tells the public, we're on your side, people tend to listen. But in Britain today, more and more voters are beginning to ask a far more uncomfortable question. Do they actually believe it? Because this week, against the backdrop of a growing crisis in the Middle East, rising tensions in global energy markets, and the real possibility of oil supply disruption, the Prime Minister stood before the country and delivered a message meant to reassure. Spoke about understanding ordinary people. Spoke about growing up in the 1970s. Spoke about the anxiety families feel when another bill lands on the doormat. And they insisted that his government would fight in their corner. But outside the carefully prepared speech, a very different conversation was already unfolding. Critics across the political spectrum were asking whether the government's words matched its actions, and whether Britain is quietly drifting towards a new energy shock. The spark for this debate lies thousands of miles away. In the narrow water war known as the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategically important shipping routes on Earth. Nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through that corridor. If the strait is disrupted, the consequences ripple across the global economy within days. Petrol prices rise. Energy markets panic. And governments scramble to reassure their citizens that everything is under control. Right now, that is precisely the fear driving the latest political row in Westminster. Reports that Iran could threaten shipping through the strait have triggered warnings that global oil and gas supply could tighten dramatically. For Britain, already struggling with high energy costs and economic uncertainty, the stakes could hardly be bigger.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.
I mean, you know, this man brings zealotry and stupidity to new depths. You know, if he was doing what he's doing in normal times, we would still say it was reckless and insane. However, he's doing it at a time when Britain is in crisis, when we're at war, and it's tantamount to treason what he's doing. He's willing to let this country go to the wall and to have an oil crisis, and yet he's stopping people drilling in the North Sea. You know, there are 25 billion barrels of oil in the North Sea, and one bloke is sitting on top of it and saying, no, you can't have it. It's, you know, we produce just 1% of the world's carbon emissions, and as long as China, which built 50 coal-fired power stations in 25 alone, as long as they're doing that, as long as America and Russia are doing what they're doing with coal, what we do in this country means sod all. It's not going to have any effect whatsoever. And people will say, oh, well, then, there's no reason not to do it. Yes, it is. When you're rushing your country to net zero and it's going to bankrupt the country, there is no reason to do that. He's even stopping, he wants to have petrol and diesel cars banned by 2030. The EU isn't doing it till 2035. Why does he want to get 5 years ahead of the EU? I don't understand the rush. He sounds insane these days. Zealots sound insane. And what he said there today, wasn't it? What was he said on that programme? He said, one lesson we've seen from this crisis, this is the war, he's saying we need to have homegrown, clean power. How are we going to get that with solar panels and wind turbines?
Which we haven't already got anyway, by the way.
Yes, when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. It's a crazy energy.
Well, and where are we getting them from as well? Because, I mean, the other, mostly China.
Yeah.
So there you go. Look, Jake, what do you make of this? I mean, the Labour's reaction to this ongoing crisis and the impact that it's going to have on my viewers' and listeners' bills.
Well, I was sat round the cabinet table with, albeit Liz Truss, when we faced this last sort of energy squeeze last time, and it was really clear to me when I was sat in cabinet, had the ability to do something about it, that where you have households and businesses who are frankly facing probably losing their home, losing their business, losing their job because of this energy squeeze, that any responsible government should actually do everything they can. They shouldn't just discount a whole sector of energy because it doesn't suit with their sort of crazy left-wing ideology. They should say we've got to do everything we can, which is, of course, what Ed Miliband's saying, but it's not what he's doing. And let's look actually today on their announcement on the heating fuel. £53 million, and I actually raised this last week on this show, saying we weren't talking about heating fuel. I'm glad we are talking about 53 million quid for a group of people, 1.55 million people here in the UK to support them. That's £35 each. When their heating fuel bill has doubled. More than £500, most people's bills have gone up. This is too little, too late. It's deeply irresponsible of the government not to do everything they can to support people. And look, on the wider question of North Sea oil and gas, and particularly fracking, we've got billions of pounds worth of natural gas under our feet here in the UK. Look, It's absolutely ridiculous for the government not to be doing that. And let's never forget that the only thing they banned is British oil and gas.
Exactly.
We're still bringing it in from Norway. And in fact, those Norway fields are drilling into UK sovereign waters and tapping our gas and selling it back to us, and they've banned it. It's absolute insanity. He's right to the extent that we have to be self-sufficient for energy as a nation.
Yeah.
The way we do it is by a mix, including oil and gas, but that's British oil and gas.
Ed Miliband currently would be happy. This is some of the comments that he made at the weekend, by the way, slightly out of step with what Sir Keir Starmer is saying. Sir Keir Starmer is essentially ruling out any military action in the Strait of Hormuz to try to open it, to try to allow that oil and gas to get through there. Ed Miliband actually said that he would be happy for us to have a little bit of military action there and have some drones there. He would send British troops we haven't got thousands of miles away to go and make sure that foreign oil and gas can get through into Britain, instead of just drilling for it ourselves in the North Sea off the coast of Aberdeen.
Well, Ed Miliband is completely correct when he says that if we drilled more oil in the North Sea, it would not affect the prices.
Yes,
because
it would.
It would not, because they are set globally.
Because more oil in the market would reduce the price of oil.
Except that there's two things. One is that the time that would take in order to increase, and secondly, the scale you would need to have that sort of impact is not one that we're going to have within any time of this war in coming weeks. So that's
which is why you should have done it 2 years ago.
What it shows is just how poorly we have done since Ed Miliband was last in government. If only Miliband had been there since 2008, we would have done better. Because what is the lesson in the last 5 years? It's that global volatility has left Britain particularly vulnerable. So if we weren't vulnerable to gas and oil prices by other conflicts, if we had invested in renewable energy since Ed Miliband was last in government, we would be with much cheaper bills today.
You know, this government has already said that they understand we're going to be more reliant on oil for longer than we thought. Miliband has also admitted that, but yet he's willing to pay other countries to export oil here, whose carbon footprint is way bigger than ours. So he's a hypocrite. So it's OK to take it from other countries that have a massive carbon footprint, but he won't let us do it here.
Do you understand that if we had had a much bigger proportion of nuclear and renewable energy...
What's he doing about nuclear? What's he doing about nuclear? He's not doing anything.
As he said in that clip, he's investing in it.
Yeah, he's not. He's done nothing.
If we had far more of that on our own island, we would not have been subject to Russia and Iran and Venezuela.
He can say he's investing in it. Hey, headline news, he lies. He said he was going to reduce your bill by £300. It's gone up by over 70.
By two? It's gone up by £200 a year.
OK, £200 a year. The thing is, he lies. He says he's investing in nuclear. How much new nuclear has been brought online under this government? None. It's fine. And actually, you talk about long-termism. If it's OK to say we're investing in nuclear because that will produce energy, which in the long term will reduce bills, why wouldn't you invest in oil and gas? And the final thing is on the fuel duty. I just want to make this point. On the fuel duty, what's completely dishonest about it, as put to him, it's a percentage of the price you are paying at the pump. So there's going to be a £3 billion windfall for Rachel Reeves and the Treasury, because that 38%, which was at £1.30 a litre for your diesel, is now 38% of £1.